Hey everyone, Alistair here. Hope you're doing okay. The summer months are upon us, which means two things. I need to wear more hats, and this is the part of our year when costs are high and support tends to dip. We know, believe me, things are tight everywhere at the moment, and unfortunately, that includes us. For those of you who support us already, thank you so much. We hope you're enjoying the great new Catscast episodes and all the PseudoPod extrusions. If you don't support us, but you would like to join them, we've got tons of options for you at both Patreon and PayPal. Even a one-off at Ko-fi makes a big difference. Or, if you're in the market for some sweet new summer wardrobe, we have a new swag store, courtesy of our amazing friends over at Void Merch, and the t-shirts are unbelievably great. It all adds up, it all helps, and it all helps us bring you the best in free audio fiction every week. So, if you can help out, please do, and thanks, and do enjoy this week's episode.
Jamie thought it was a scratch at first, the little spidery mark at the base of his ribcage. It wasn't until it started spreading that he realized it was scar tissue, twisted and ropey, stretching across his belly, and it wasn't until the next day that he realized it was spelling words. You have been warned. You have been warned. You have been warned.
PseudoPod, episode 820, July 22nd, 2022. This week's story, Off the Road by Matt Ellis. Hey folks, how you doing? Alistair here. This is PseudoPod, the weekly horror podcast. Your audio production is done by the amazing Marty this week, as it was last week. And our story this week comes to us from Matt Ellis. Matt is a reformed Army intelligence officer and diplomat, paying his dues with freelance interviews and LitCrit while grinding it out as a crime and thriller writer. He's a 2021-2022 National Book Critics Circle Emerging Critic Fellow and holds an MFA in fiction at the University of California. His work has been featured in Publishers Weekly, the Los Angeles Review of Books, the Coachella Review, Thought Catalog, and Sein und Werden. He and his wife recently abandoned their usually emptied nest for a life of wandering as digital nomads. If you see them out in the world, flag them down, invite them for a drink, they're good company. You can follow Matt at Let's Writing One on Twitter and letswriting.com on the web. Your reader this week is Cara Grace. Cara is a green witch from Michigan. As you read this, she is probably in the woods somewhere, wading through the lily pads in a quiet pond, or laughing at an inside joke with her favourite grove of trees in the moonlight. She is a geographer during the day, a fine dining waitress by night, and an aspiring artist of botanical and prismatic magic every other moment she can find. She loves the written word in every form, whether it be poetry, podcasts, fiction, or taking a moment to spin a world with words herself. She has enjoyed reading aloud since she was in middle school, hand in the air every time the teacher asked who wanted to go next. She loves bringing life to words, sees it as a form of magical alchemy, and loves to cultivate all kinds of herbs and flowers, but her favourite is datura, sacred moonflowers that only bloom at night during the warm months. You can catch her on Twitter at Datura Delphina, and if you're interested in a celestial suncatcher, head over to her soon-to-be-stocked Etsy shop, or in the Instagram which shares its name, all of which will be in the show notes. So, it's been a long journey. Fancy a drink? Maybe a true story?
Off the Road by Matt Ellis, narrated by Cara Grace. They're going to try to tell you that hitchhiking is dangerous. Mostly men. They'll throw girl in there, possibly lumped in with pretty young thing, and close out the topic with a crooked wink smile. I get this a lot. I guess the days of Kerouac-inspired hippies with a heavy wanderlust and a light wallet, willing to extend the thumb to see the open road, was somehow overshadowed by the endless list of inevitable horrors lying behind the thin facade of strangerly kindness. I blame it on Hollywood. Backlot bungalows full of coked-up Weinsteins ruining the simple things in life by stoking paranoia and creating a fear of everything for a box office money grab. Who are those studio types to tell me what to fear while they're unzipping for the next pre-production casting couch diddle? What happened to my Mima's generation? The one that climbed trees or drank out of sun-hot garden hoses. I say fuck it. You only live once, and I know better than others that life can be mighty short. You're lucky if you even see it coming. It was Jackie Kay's On the Road and his lesser-known poem, Hitchhiker, that sparked my desire to play it real old school and hit the pavement the hard way. You found his blue corpse in a green shade edition with axe blots. Okay, he's not exactly the bard, but every girl's got her passions, and sometimes it mixes with her poisons. I'd been teetering for a long time, and the slathering of danger atop adventure pulled me right over the edge. I went straight to my Papa Bear. I said, "Papa Bear, my bindle's packed, and I'm off to see what's what. Gonna thumb it across the country beatnik style. Say hey to Mama for me when you see her." Call it my honey badger attitude, but I draw more than my fair share of joy out of the small surprises in life, and this one did not disappoint in the least. I don't know what did it. Maybe the mama comment. She's been in the ground more than a year now, but damn if that Sasquatch didn't blow a fuse as he's prone to do when he's a sixer into his liquid dinner. I can't recall all of the obscenities that came flying out of his mouth, but you'd think he was Lil Wayne with all the B's he dropped. It all ended kind of abruptly with, "If you walk out that door, Maybelline, and accost you, you're dead to me." This caught me by surprise, since he's the one who introduced me to the counterculture classics. Maybe he just liked the reefer part, but joke's on him, I guess, 'cause he's dead to me too. Dead to all of us, depending on your personal philosophies. Funny how an 8-pound skillet expertly handled can make up for a 150-pound difference in weight class. The single wide went up like a whole summer of drought-dry kindling. Happens more often than you'd like to think. Police don't even put on the lights for something like that anymore. I've been on the road over a year now, and I don't reckon I know how I lived any other way. For anyone with a curiosity for the unconventional and a fire burning so hot inside they might explode like a trailer park propane, I can't recommend it highly enough. There is just no better way to see the world and eat new people. I'm just joshing. I ain't no campsite cannibal. I can't say I haven't tried it. I mean, how else are you supposed to know what quiets the skull-fracturing voices that scream out to you from deep down inside your chitlins besides experimentation? Unholy hankering for human flesh? Well, consider that item crossed off my most dangerous games bucket list. So is keeping mementos. It does have its nostalgic appeal for those nights you're waylaid and you can't get your stock on, but it ain't practical. Think about how many years Ed Gein spent on his stitching craft. 10,000 hours, I reckon. He had a steady sewing hand, but he never made one flesh accessory that wouldn't clash with my look. Besides, when you're hitching, you gotta travel light. Now that we're on that topic, and I still have your interest, logistics are everything. Any spider could tell you, if they could speak. They don't talk to me, but I'm not one to judge if you have consultation with bugs. Presentation is everything. You have to bait the hook for the catch you want. While my personal fashion tastes lean towards black and baggy, that ensemble is more likely to earn a puddle splash than a stopped car. It should come as no surprise that short and/or skimpy is the honey for my preferred bees. In the backwoods, where I like to lurk, they're as thick as skeeters at a swamp picnic. By the way, swamp picnics are perfect for going home -1, if you catch my drift. Call it, my gifts to the gators. You know the type I'm looking for, ladies. The Cletus, who ocularly bangs you for an hour from the other side of the bar after only incidental eye contact. The Bobby, who slides your halter top aside so he can get a better look at your butterfly wing ink. The Tom at the hardware store, who feels the compulsion to say, "Ain't that axe a little too big for a tiny girl like you?" The Billy, who stalks you aisle to aisle, working up the courage to approach. Take it from a girl who's stuffed her fair share of men into their own trunk. It's best not to telegraph intentions before reaching the parking lot. The list of men creeping around Country Road looking to give a girl a lift is a long one, and most expect an appreciative detour between there and where I said I would want to go. They always seem to have something special to show me. They just don't know what I like to see. This is in no way an all-encompassing instructional, nor is it my manifesto. I haven't quite found myself yet. Isn't that what the 20s are all about? The more I'm out here slicing through life's less traveled arteries, the more I learn about myself and the world. Take last week, for example. I never once thought I would find love, and then he just coasted in behind me in a 1970 Coupe de Ville and honked. He had a mama says I'm cute look about him, a Berkowitz brow drawn rigid over a boyish Gacy smile, a look that might take you years to love if you just give it a chance. I waved him off, but he was insistent about the impossible walking distance from here to there on my little legs, the darkening clouds and impending storm, and the predators that stalk the night. And then it happened. The downpour that pushed me inside the ride. I was soaked before I hit the seat. Lucky for him, they were covered in plastic. Don't mind that none. I just got her out of the shop, he said. My rod is clean, darling. The rain came down in sheets, and the wiper blades couldn't seem to keep up. He suggested the only safe thing would be to pull off the main road. I told him to do whatever he thought was best. He seemed a bit shy, poking around in the darkness for small talk. Do you live around here? You always travel alone? Anyone expecting you where you're headed? Nice, good, and perfect were his reactions to my answers. As he blathered on, I gotta be honest, I lost the urge. It was cold, I was wet, and the thirst just wasn't there anymore. But I thought back to Papa Bear, lying there on the linoleum, my reflection in the expanding pool of blood. On a good, sober day, he had real nuggets of wisdom, like real character lies in how you handle the bad days, not the good ones. We were here, we were parked, and there was no one else around. I came out here to do something. "Wanna fuck?" I asked him. "I got a condom right here in my bag." He seemed a little shaken by my forwardness. The macho usually is when the tables are turned. He considered it, and then nodded his head. Sure, would pass the time. I slid my left hand up his thigh real nice-like, while I reached forward into my bag with my right, wrapping my fingers around Zeus, my 1,000,000-volt wand of wonder. I knew he was getting into the mood because he leaned over my shoulder and moaned into my ear. I slipped my pink bedazzled stun gun up to his twigs and berries. I hit the switch and he started twitching, and then something sharp drew tight around my neck, cutting into my skin and closing off my pipes. I grabbed him by the biscuits and twisted until the wire went slack, then threw the door open and tumbled out to get some distance on the situation. He got out of the car on the other side, stooped still from the groin grab, a garrote line threaded between his fingers. I drew my knife from its thigh sheath and slashed at him to force him to take a step back. "You tried to kill me," I croaked. "Yeah, but I stopped," he said. He pursed his lips toward my knifed hand. "Is that a K-bar TDI?" "Yes'm. Come closer and I'll show you where it goes." "You're not what I expected." He straightened up and smiled. "You hungry?" "Depends on what you're cooking." He squinted at me. "You're not vegan, are you?" "No, but I don't dine with Dahmer either." "I don't generally eat what I catch myself, but you never know what you're gonna like." "I know, right? How about just plain old beef? I make a mean tartare." His fighting for my affections right there in the rain sparked something inside me that I'd never felt before. He made me all gushy on the inside like I make them feel on the outside. It was just like a scene out of The Notebook. For the first time in my life, I wanted to finish what my backwoods suitors always thought was at the end of this road. He took me to his cabin deep in the woods. We opened up, sharing stories of our separate journeys of metamorphosis. His might not have been as far-flung, but he was quite prodigious nonetheless. I confided about how I wanted to pen a sequel to the book that inspired my travels, a memoir, call it Off the Road, Burying the Hatchet. It was the first time I'd said it out loud, and it sounded foolish, even to me. He smiled and said it was just perfect. He took my hand and gave me a tour of the place, finishing with his trophy room, where he kept his album of hair locks and a painted toenail collage. It was beyond perfection. I took him right there on the floor. It didn't take but a few seconds. He may have picked up a busload of women, but he'd never driven them down this route before either. I fell asleep in his arms, letting the heat of afterglow fill the balloons that carried me off to a land of imagination. We could ride off into the sunset together with the his and her drop cloths and a trunk full of sharpened possibilities. We could spike chains in the root cellar and keep our catch for a while to see if there really was something to all that putting the lotion on the skin business. Life had been fine enough alone, but could there be more in our union? After all, what was Anthony without Cleopatra, Bonnie without Clyde, Rosemary without her baby, or Donald without Ivanka? Maybe I'd finally found the place I could leave some DNA behind. My dreamy smile dropped as morning light cast doubts upon what now seemed like delusions. Could he leave this all behind to follow me into a nomadic life of vivid memories, not keepsakes? Would I be happy working from home? How would we define our roles? Would I be the bait and he the trap? Would we draw in couples or stay with the isolated singles? Did he have a jealous streak? Maybe he'd imagined my eyes lingering a little too long at necrophilic phallic as we break one down for a compost. There was a certain unavoidable gyration to quartering a man, even with the best of bone saws. Movements that could easily be mistaken as carnal rather than consequence. Would knitting our lives together mean carving off a piece of what I've worked so hard to become? He found me in the bathroom, staring into the mirror, and smiled at my distress-curled lips. "What's eating you?" he asked. "Just taking it all in," I said. Best not to ponder so deeply on an empty stomach. He slapped me on the ass and nudged me towards the kitchen. The pit in the root cellar could use a scrubbing, but that can wait until after breakfast. The sizzle and pop of the bacon grease brought me back to Papa Bear and the miles I'd put between me and the trailer. Had I wandered this long to find myself in another man's kitchen? The answer once again was in the handle of an 8-pound iron skillet. In the heat of the flames, licking the stacked logs of the cabin, I felt reborn. I'd been drawn from the forest by Hansel's crumbs and almost lost a piece of myself. I spun his caddy keyring on my finger and stepped back as the roof caved in on itself, burying my latest temptation. All was not lost. Gretel got herself a hot ride with a trunk that could fit 6 in a wide-open road. Why not head down old Mexico way? Alone, but never lonely.
By the way, this story was previously published in the spring 2021 issue of Silent Verden. Also, long-time listeners will know that one of my compass points navigating the foggy straits of horror is the William Friedkin quote about how true horror is seeing something approach. The horror here comes from an entirely different perspective to that. It's based in self-awareness, what we have and what we think we have. Our lead here knows exactly what she is. Hell, she's jaunty about it. There is a bounce and swagger to the language which I really enjoyed and which is designed to make you overlook or not fully register things like the admission of murder and cannibalism in the opening few pages. The horror is here. The horror knows exactly what it is. It just doesn't care. So that's the first level. But there's also a second, which is the total lack of self-awareness that our lead here enjoys and everyone else endures. She is so wrapped up in the bloody-toothed candy shop glee of do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law that she doesn't see that this is a broken world and she is a broken toy. She and her beloved monsters careening down the highways like homicide children locked into the largest sweet shop in the world, able to go anywhere, do anything to anyone, and doing just that. The kind reading is that they don't see what they leave behind. The realistic reading is that they do, and that's the point. How will someone know you've been there if your name isn't gouged into the blacktop or painted in blood? But there's a third level, My favourite line here is, maybe I'd finally found the place I could leave some DNA behind. Because damn if that isn't horror, tragedy and comedy, waking up in a dumpster after getting blackout drunk together and then going to IHOP. Our lead is lonely, or thinks she should be. And what do people do when they're lonely? They settle down with other people. And the moment she does, the clock starts ticking, because that engine of murder inside her never stops revving. And sooner or later, horror won't be approaching. It'll be driving off with blood in its teeth, something it tells itself is joy in its heart, and a cooling body or six behind it. Not a victim, just a wind-up toy that's too wound up, despite the comforting, candy, sticky lies it tells itself. Yeah, I really like this one. Oh hey, we have 5 shows now, do you know that? Cat's Cast, Cast of Wonders, Podcastle, PseudoPod, and Escape Pod. And I am rocking up on 15 years in this chair, really very quickly. That's insane. That is ridiculous, and I'm honoured and humbled to work with such an amazing team, such amazing authors, and an audience that literally powers us, which is, well, you. Because you do power us. We rely on you to pay our authors and cover every cost. We're now at the point where we're paying everyone, every staff member, and that is a major benchmark because we believe everyone who works in this field should be rewarded for their time, not just because that's only fair, but because that is the only way that this field, built on the blood, sweat and tears of decades of volunteerism, will ever grow and evolve and become better for everyone. Without any element of our staff, this entire operation collapses. Editors, authors, hosts, producers, slush readers, associate editors, they are all needed on mission, and if they're all on mission, they all need to be paid. They all deserve to be paid for the time they are giving to us and to these stories and to you. So please, I know times are hard. I've probably said that already at the top of the episode, but if you can, please help out. We need it. You can donate any amount you want. Subs start from $5 a month through PayPal and Patreon. That gets you access to the support bonus content, which includes whole, fully produced episodes of PseudoPod and Cat's Cast and a bunch of other things. It is a great deal. You get things, we get the capacity to make more things that you then get, as do other people. If you can, and I know things are tight right now, please help out. Thank you. I will kind of be back next week, because next week, if I'm reading my calendar right, is a story called Celestial Shores by Sarah Day and Tim Pratt. That episode is my 15th year. It's my 15th anniversary hosting this show. I'm not hosting it. The calendar just reads staff. I suspect I may be about to be emotionally compromised. There may also be cake. This is going to be fun. I'm in next episode, by the way. So is Marguerite. We're both reading the story, and it's a great story. So do please come along if you can. Marty will be doing amazing audio production, as he did this week, as he always does. And like I say, your host will be staff, and your feelings will be, well, if you're me, everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. We really appreciate you. Then, as now, we will be a production of Escape Artists Incorporated and released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. And we will see you next week. Have a good one.
It's a pseudopod. It's a big foot.
It's all about podcasts these days.